Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vice President Product Marketing, John Metzger.
Good morning. Welcome again to VeeamON and to New Orleans. Unfortunately, I had to tell Ratmir and Peter I forgot my 3-pack of green socks. I'll bring that next time. But I'm here. Are you here to experience the next generation of availability? Yeah? Yes? All right, good. You're in the right place because for the next couple minutes, we're going to talk about what's coming in the Veeam Always-On Availability Platform. So let's get started. So now, as you just heard from Peter McKay, users want that confidence of knowing that their information is available whenever and wherever they need it. They want that seamless digital life experience to help them transact, to get things done, to make what they do simpler, to get analytics and analysis of their data, to be more insightful, and to help them and their businesses win. Win, just like as you heard with the Denver Broncos and how they're winning using availability. Now, Veeam helps businesses win across the globe with our Availability Suite for the Always-On Cloud. Now, this suite is a fundamentally different and new kind of solution. It's different from legacy backup solutions because it delivers nonstop business continuity, digital transformation agility, and analytics and visibility. So let's take a few minutes and look at each one of these in a little bit more detail. So now when we talk about nonstop business continuity, it's the confidence that what you need is available when, where, and how you need it. Now, we surveyed our customers with the help of IDC, and they told us that they see 2.5 times fewer recovery failures than they did with their old legacy backup solution. They also told us that they see 3 times faster recoveries, and they meet their SLAs 91% of the time compared to 69% of the time with their old legacy backup solution. Now, that's business continuity. Next, let's talk about digital transformation agility. Now, this is providing that easy, secure, reliable, cross-cloud data management and migration. So when you choose a cloud, you choose it your way. Now, we do this through a software-defined, hardware and cloud-agnostic platform that lets you adapt to the requirements of your end users. And we all know those requirements change, and they change frequently. Third is analytics and visibility. Now, for legacy backup solutions, backup is really insurance. But with Veeam, your data, your backups are powerful. They deliver actionable insights for data management, operational performance, and compliance across your entire infrastructure. And enterprises can now monitor, analyze, and act upon this analytics and visibility data. Okay, so now that all sounds great, right? In fact, it looks great, a lot of large words on the screen, but now we're going to show you how Veeam helps to deliver that seamless digital life experience that Peter was talking about. And we're going to show you that by unveiling many new features that are coming in our Availability Suite version 10, as well as our new Always-On Availability Platform. So you ready to experience some availability? You said you were before. Sit back, relax, and let me bring out some of the technical product marketing team to help us show you what's coming in the next releases.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Technical Evangelist Clint Wyckoff, Technical Evangelist Michael White, Director Technical Product Marketing and Evangelism Rick Vanover, and Technical Evangelist Michael Kay.
All right, so we have the experts up here who are going to show us what's coming in the next releases. You guys ready to do some show and tell? Show some of these activities, some of the releases? All right, so now we're going to start with our Veeam Availability Suite. And all of you are probably familiar with the suite. It's been an innovative, first-to-market, patented solutions that have changed the market, including things like leveraging storage snapshots, instant VM recovery, built-in WAN acceleration, Cloud Connect services, and much, much more. And this is helping those 231,000 customers that Peter talked about get that always-on availability 24/7, 365. And with our new Veeam Availability Suite version 10, we're driving that business continuity, that agility to unprecedented new levels. And that's what we're going to share with you while we go through some of these today. Some key new enhancements that we'll talk about as part of version 10. Physical server and network attached storage, protection, and support. Tier 1 application and mission critical workloads with our new Veeam CDP, continuous data protection. And this is driving SLAs of seconds using that continuous replication to the private and the managed cloud. And we'll share more about that here in a few minutes. Native object storage support. You heard a little bit about this from Peter. This is freeing up that costly backup, primary backup storage with policy-driven automated data management that cuts that long-term retention and those compliance costs. And we're also going to share with you a new universal API that lets us to drive additional integrations with storage vendors. So let's get ready to take a closer look at several of these. Now, first off, as you may know, how many of your businesses are 100% virtualized? We know that our customers, they tell us they're roughly about 75% virtualized on average. And that means that 25% of their workloads are actually on physical servers, right? We also know that due to complexity, compliance reasons, peace of mind, they're really not ready to move off of those physical servers. So what are you doing to protect those endpoint devices as well, right? So whether they're in your business, in the office, whether they're with a remote user traveling, those devices are often susceptible to things like loss, to breakage, to corruption, maybe even ransomware. We all heard about the attacks last week and into this week. So what are you doing to protect those endpoint devices? And then what about your workloads on Windows and Linux servers that are in the public cloud? Well, you get the idea. What you're looking for, what you need is an availability strategy that's going to extend beyond your virtualized workloads to your physical servers, your endpoints, and those Windows and Linux-based applications in the cloud. So let's take a closer look at what we're delivering here. In December, we released our Veeam agent for Linux. Now, today, we're excited to announce the release of Veeam agent for Windows. Now, this delivers backup and recovery for physical and cloud-based workloads, as well as those roaming endpoints, those roaming devices. So, Clint, let's do a little bit of a demo here. So now we know that many businesses have thousands of VMs, maybe even tens of thousands of VMs. We also know that they have lots of physical servers and probably workstations, laptops for almost all their employees. But what are they doing to help manage, to put backups on those, to restore on all those? There's thousands of them that could be very complex and time consuming.
Absolutely, John. So let's actually take a look here today. But first, I have a question for everybody. Who's ready to see some live demos? I think we are ready to see some real solid technology, right? Absolutely 100% live. Let's do this. So as John just mentioned here, Veeam Backup and Replication version 10 is going to be adding native agent support through the console. This has been one of the most requested features that we've received from our customers and our partners. And as John announced here today, we are going to be adding native agent management for both the Veeam agent for Linux as well as the Veeam agent for Windows.
And this is truly live.
This is truly live, folks. Absolutely. So let's see if we can get this corrected here. So we have the right screen being displayed. If not, we can always see my mouse is not moving on the screen there.
So even the videos won't help now.
Yeah.
Correct. So how's everyone doing today, right? I guess we can break the ice here. As I said, this is absolutely live. That's how the Veeam All-Stars do it. I'm hoping that the team is working frantically behind the scenes to get things corrected as quickly as possible here.
Yes.
Here comes the savior of the day. No pressure, sir.
So what we're doing that, Clint, so we're talking about built-in management for our physical servers, virtual servers, all within one console.
Absolutely. So as we go through the demo here, just hopefully in a second or two, we're going to notice that not only are you able to manage the virtual infrastructure within Veeam Backup and Replication, but you're also going to be able to manage your Veeam agent for Windows as well as your Veeam agent for Linux deployments that you have. You'll notice several different areas of the UI that have been updated. So we're going to be able to share those with you here. And the first one that actually I would point out for you once we get this demo going here is the concept of inventory, right? Because previously we had an area within the backup console that was called virtual machines, right? That's where you would add your VMware vSphere environment, your Microsoft Hyper-V infrastructure. However, as organizations continue to modernize their data center, right, and they have workloads running all over the place, John, right, it makes sense to have and break that out from not only just a virtual machine perspective, but from a holistic inventory perspective as well. So being able to manage all of your agents as well as your virtual machines directly through the Veeam Backup and Replication console.
Got it.
All
there
right,
we're
live.
Yeah, magic. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for working with us through the technical difficulties.
All
right, let's go.
So let's take a look here. So as I mentioned, this is Veeam Backup and Replication version 10. You'll notice here that we have the home area where you create jobs and things. Under inventory, you'll notice I have my vSphere environment, but I also have some protected groups, okay? Yes. Because before we can actually deploy the Veeam agent software, we need to discover the computers that we're going to deploy this on. So to do this, you simply right-click in the UI and go under Add Protected Group. Give it a name. VeeamON rocks. You'll notice here we have several different discovery types that we're able to perform. The first one I'm going to point out for you is the individual computer. So individual computer is a statically assigned. You essentially click that radio button, click next, and then you can type in the fully qualified host name or the IP address of the machine that you're going to discover. The second method is Active Directory objects. And with this, you're able to drill down inside of your Active Directory infrastructure, select either an organizational unit, a computer object, for instance, and be able to discover all of those physical devices that reside within that hierarchy. The last option here is a CSV file. So if you have a configuration management database, for instance, you can export the contents of that out to a CSV file and then import them here through the Backup and Replication console. But what I've done here is pre-created an Active Directory discovery groups here. So we can see that by default, John, we actually pre-populate the domain, so you don't have to worry about that. However, if you did have child domains or other domains with trust inside the infrastructure, you can drill down and click change. So here, if we click on Add, we're able to drill down real-time live inside of my Active Directory infrastructure and choose specific organizational units or individual computer objects. And for today's demo, we're going to focus on the servers and workstations OU that we've got, John. With that, we click Next. Now, many companies have already virtualized, obviously, and they're going to want to exclude those virtual machines from their backup because they're already being protected by Veeam Backup and Replication. And you can simply check off that checkbox, or if you didn't want to discover stale objects inside of the infrastructure, maybe physical machines that haven't been decommissioned properly and have been offline for an extended period of time, or you can statically exclude individual objects or organizational units too. Now, in order for us to be able to perform backup activities, restore activities, as well as install the Veeam agent for Windows, we need to supply some local administrator credentials inside of that guest operating system. And that's what this master account is used for. But we're also able to use individual credentials on perhaps a computer by computer basis or an OU by OU basis. So if my workstation account has a different local administrator that's responsible for that machine, you can specify that, or my server OU, for instance, you can get pretty granular there. And then the last option here within our discovery is setting the frequency in which it runs. So this is available in either hours, minutes, hours, or days. So what this will actually do is it'll go out, pull your Active Directory or your CSV file for any updates, and then it'll automatically discover those as part of the protection group. And then we give you the option or the availability to be able to automatically deploy the Veeam agent software as part of that discovery process. And once we have our machines discovered, we're going to pivot the view over here to the Home tab. And you'll notice that I've already pre-created several jobs. And let's drill into the server demo job here, for instance. Now, under type, we have the workstation type, we have the server type, but also, folks, you'll notice here, and we're showing this live for the first time for you VeeamON folks, is Veeam Backup Replication version 10 is going to be adding full Windows failover cluster support as well. So that's one of the most requested features that we've heard from our larger customers that they have failover clusters deployed in. So down here below, however, you'll notice two different modes, and they have two distinct purposes in life. The first one is managed by the backup server. And what this does is Veeam Backup and Replication itself fully manages that agent, the schedule, all of the job statistics, everything about it, right? There's no local information stored on that endpoint device. Everything is stored in the Veeam Backup and Replication configuration database. It installs a lightweight, limited user interface, so it's very low touch on the actual device that you're installing that's managed by Veeam Backup and Replication. But then the other radio button down here is the Manage by Agent. And the Manage by Agent option, John, fully installs the Veeam Agent for Windows experience. And this is useful for workstation machines that are perhaps disconnected away from the corporate network, where they need to meet their recovery point objectives on a continuous basis, right? The schedule is handled, all the information is stored locally inside of that agent device, right? So we can go down here under computers, we can see the protection group, the individual object that we've added, the backup mode being either entire computer or the selected volume. So if I wanted to do file level backup or just say, for instance, system state information, we can perform that too. Choose my backup repository. Where do I want this data to be stored? The restore point, the retention policy. For servers, especially applications that require consistency during the backup. So like SQL Server, always on groups, database availability groups for Exchange, Oracle, SharePoint, anything that you want to be able to do individual item level recovery, utilizing the Veeam Explorer series, you'll want to make sure you check off that application aware image processing. And the last option here is the schedule. And obviously this should be very familiar to anybody out there that's utilized Veeam in the past. The full server scheduling options are available there. And to wrap it up, folks, for you here at VeeamON, that is what Veeam Backup and Replication is going to be delivering for the agent management in version 10 that's coming to a theater near you soon.
To a theater near us. Great, and worth the wait. Thank you. I appreciate that, Clint. Thank you for showing us that. All right, so it's great to see that centralized management of our physical agents, of virtual machines, endpoints, all within one console. Thanks again, Clint, for showing us that. So, many of your companies are using network attached storage, and likely your end users are using it for a couple key use cases. One is they need that additional centralized file storage for information that they're saving. Or they might be using it as a collaborative and file sharing tool, working with lots of other folks in the organization to share information and leverage the data in a way that's going to help them win, help them grow their business. Now, if that data were to become corrupted, accidentally deleted, or again, maybe hit by malware, ransomware, end users would expect that data to be recovered very quickly so they can continue on with what they're working on, get work done. So Veeam, in our version 10, our Veeam Availability Suite version 10, we're significantly expanding our footprint of protection to include things like physical agents, physical servers, as well as network-attached storage. So let's share a little bit more of that. I'm going to go over here to Rick. And Rick, can you tell us a little bit about the backup and restore for network-attached storage?
Yes, and good recovery, Clint. Let's hope that, I'm already better off, so we're good. So this is one of the most requested features I've personally had from Veeam, and so I'm going to jump right in and show you this new capability in Backup and Replication V10 to back up a file share. Now, I've already got it set up, but I'm going to right-click on this. I'm going to go to Properties, and just like everything we know with Veeam, John, it's very easy to use. I've already dropped in the UNC path. This is a SMB share and some credentials here to access that. And then there's this new element down here called a file proxy. Now that's our data mover. Those of you familiar with the product, we have different proxies. Michael's going to talk about another type of proxy here in a second. And that's it. That's all we do to add this file server to inventory. And from there, I did already set up that file backup proxy, but again, it's just another component like a Windows service. And you'll see here, I've got the same host used for other roles. So everything we do with the different proxies, we can use existing proxies. We don't have to make it a complex infrastructure. So let's go ahead and do some backups. I've already got this backup job set up here. Now I'm going to edit it, and I like to go ahead and give self-documenting names. It's a NAS backup, so that's a really good way. It clearly tells me what this job does, and I'm going to add that file server as the source of this backup job. Now, I like that we have some logic in here about exclusions or inclusions or something like that. For those of you really aware of your business, what your data profiles are and what you need to retain, you can make jobs based on this. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. So the file backup of NAS servers is not the notion of restore points like we know from the agents, from virtual machines and things like that. It's more about file versioning. So we do put the backups in a repository like we know and love, but then we have this rule of keeping all versions of files for 28 days. For a lot of people, that's a pretty good set of capabilities. But aside from that, there's new logic, short-term and long-term retention here, and that's where we drop into setting that up, really to meet our business requirements, because these network-attached storage systems, they really come around to being line of business applications, very aware of the rules that you might have with that type of data. We can go ahead and keep it forever, as well as some additional file version information. And then the archive notion, which Michael will talk about here in a second. Then we drop in a schedule, and just like that, we're good to go. But wait, there's more. There's always the restore, and this is actually probably the most important part. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a file restore. 3 key scenarios. Start at the bottom, what I'll call your daily disasters. I need a file restored. No real issue there, files and folders as well. Or I could take the whole file share back to a point in time, which is really critical if it got like wiped out by ransomware or a bad script or that admin that you don't really care for, that type of thing. But then also a complete data restore. So restoring the entire file server, that's important. So we'll expand here and we'll find that file share that we've backed up. We have some additional logic on what versions of the files were present at the time. And you can see here I've been scraping all the airline timetables for years, and that's this file server. I'm kind of a geek like that. I like that. But where I put it, I can put it right back to where it came from, or I can send it to a new file server. And that right there is very important. A lot of people have asked us over the years, are you going to support NDMP? Well, we want to be able to bring it back to where it came from, but also if that device had a complete failure, we wanted to be able to give you complete restore to different file server capabilities. So this is a really, really powerful capability, and I'm happy to have it coming in V10.
Yeah, terrific. Me too. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the demo there. So we've already given you a couple new features here that are driving that business continuity, right? Support for physical agents, support for NAS, support for endpoints, so of course support for virtual machines. We're extending that protection footprint to protect all your applications, all your data, wherever they are and wherever they might live. So now let's talk about another feature that we want to announce as part of V10, coming later this year. Protecting and managing workloads is important. We've talked about several scenarios there, but ensuring the availability of that data is critical. Right, so let's talk about a recent report that we did with ESG called the Availability Report. In that report, we asked anybody, businesses, do they have an availability gap? And 82% of them said yes, they do. Now, the availability gap is this difference between what the user, what the business expects for uptime and availability of data, and what IT can actually deliver. Now, that gap is causing larger enterprises up to $22 million a year in lost revenue, lost costs. And it is driving 66% of businesses to say, we're not able, or it's slowing our digital transformation. So there's a real need there for that availability. And Veeam Availability Suite V10 can help with our new Veeam CDP, Continuous Data Protection. So let me ask you a few questions. What's your most important service? Is it your website? Is it your point of sale application? Maybe it's your customer data. Maybe it's healthcare, patient records. Whatever it is, if that were to go down, how long is acceptable for that data to be unavailable? Days? Probably not. Hours? No. Minutes? How about seconds? So Michael, let's talk a little bit more about this. This Veeam CDP, it really is game-changing. Nobody else is doing this, certainly no legacy vendors. Can you maybe give us a demo, show us a little bit more what this is?
I'd love to, John.
Yeah, terrific.
Thank you for asking, by the way.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important for everybody to remember that customers have always been asking us, they want to have shorter RTO and shorter RPO, and of course that translates to losing the least amount of data and getting back to work the quickest. Currently, they're used to a 15-minute interval in our replication, and quite frankly, it uses snapshots, which is less than ideal, and it stresses the storage. But Veeam works very, very diligently to improve every time. It's not just about adding features to make people happy, it's about solving problems. So we continually improve, and in V10, we've done something really, actually pretty exciting with CDP. So we're gonna look at it, so it's real. And yes, we see the screen. I had to check that. We did switch the cable, so it should have worked. The important thing about this particular feature, CDP is very different, and you'll even hear more about just how different it is, but we tried very hard. In fact, the R&D guys tried really hard to make sure that you already know how to use it. So we're looking at a CDP policy, and the first couple of screens, you guys, some of you could probably draw yourself, because they're very familiar. Here we're picking out which VM or VMs to protect. The destination screen, you've seen that before. Job settings is again something you've seen before, and that's almost everything. We're almost done. The thing that's different, the only thing that's different is this screen, and it's really quite exciting. Look at the RPO default to 15 seconds. That's really quite extraordinary. There's no appliances, there's no special configuration that's hidden from you. You install Veeam Backup and Replication, and guess what? You create a policy like we're doing here, and you've got CDP. The next thing we need to look at is right below the 15 seconds, it's the short-term retention. The idea there is for 4 hours, which we have selected on the screen, you have 15-second resolution to recover from. Below that, in the longer term retention, we're going to take a restore point every 8 hours and retain it for 7 days. And those are, in fact, absolutely customizable. And the really exciting thing for many of you, I suspect, is snapshots are not used in this process. No snapshots. And this is all sort of cool. We've got everything backed up with great resolution, but what does that really mean? And now we're going to something pretend, but that's just the way it works sometimes. I have a screenshot here of what happens when you actually have all of that backup. We have a choice here where we can restore to the most recent copy, but we also have a sliding scale where you can pick exactly the date time that you want to restore from, particularly useful when you're dealing with malware. You can really pick exactly what you want out of that 15-second granularity. So really quite interesting. This is all possible by some really interesting technology from VMware called the vSphere API for I/O filtering. And it's game-changing. I think you'll really appreciate it. Back
Absolutely.
To you, John.
Yeah, game-changing. Michael, thank you again for showing us that. Veeam CDP, continuous data protection, recovery RPOs of 15 seconds or less. So really excited to see that feature coming in V10. So we've shared a couple business continuity features with you. The physical agents, network access, backup and recovery, Veeam CDP. Now let's talk about a couple agility features. Agility that's going to help IT to be able to get workloads where they need them, when they need them. And this is a key innovation, a key innovation coming in version 10 is native object storage support. Now this is key for a couple reasons, right? It allows us to easily move archives that are on backup storage to less expensive storage. It could be object storage, it could be just less expensive storage in other locations. But gives the IT infrastructure, the IT group, the flexibility to move those archives where they need them to be. So imagine if you were able to take a month's worth of archives and move them off to some less expensive storage. What would that save you in primary backup storage? Okay, now think about if you were able to move a year or 7 years of archives off to less expensive storage. What would that save you in storage? Terabytes, petabytes, that 18-digit number that Peter had up there earlier, what would it save you? And what would it save you in costs? This is where native support for backup storage types will come into handy. So Michael, if you would, could you maybe walk us through how this works? How are we supporting this native object storage?
Yeah, absolutely, John. So as you mentioned, object storage, but also tape, as well as that those repositories that are around that random IO type play. So not great for that short-term backup retention, but ideal for that longer-term write once, read many type play, as well as tape as well. So let's just jump in, and it is really as simple, easy, usable as the guys have said around that wizard-driven process. So here I've got the backup repository. It's sitting on that random IO disk type that I have, and I've just created it as we would any other backup repository. Mm-hmm. So then we can jump down into the run through. So what the archive tier that we've put into the wizard is an extension of our scale-out backup repository. So Rick mentioned how you could offload them down to that longer-term retention for file backups, but also being able to extend that scale-out backup repository. And how we do that is I've got an existing one made here. So if we jump into the properties, it looks exactly the same as any existing scale-out backup repository today. But under extents now, we've got this little checkbox that allows us to move those backup files to a cheaper storage as they age out of operational restores window. And what that is the next screen allows us to set a policy against that so that they will drip down into this archive tier. So under archive tier, we obviously go through and we add that local archive repository that I've said. You've got the ability to either move those backup files once they get to a retention. So if they get to 30 days, then we'll drop them down into this archive tier. And we've got a few overrides here. So if that primary backup storage gets to 80, 90%, then we can say, okay, let's push that down to that archive tier so we're not affecting that availability on the production. But also being able to copy. So being able to copy certain, as they come into that local retention policy, that local primary backup storage, being able to spit that out to the archive repository as and when required. So we've got a few caveats around that in that we could do all the backup files, we could do full backups, or we could take a GFS chain, so a grandfather, father, son, and drop them down. Or in certain circumstances, just take that one month, one full backup a month, and drop that down to that archive tier. So the final thing I wanted to show around the object storage is we also have a tab here, so archive repositories, and again, so simple, but what I want to leave that just on the screen because I want you all to come back tomorrow where I'm going to talk about in a little bit more detail, in particular around the Microsoft Azure blob storage and how we actually leverage that within that archive tier repository.
Great teaser. People coming back tomorrow. Looks like policy-driven, fully automated, very simple to set up and deploy.
Exactly that.
Yeah, terrific. Great, Michael. Don't go anywhere. Okay. We got one. I'm coming back to Michael here in just a second for another demo, but there's one other V10 availability suite feature that we wanted to share that helps drive agility. So you can see the agility that we're bringing with native backup storage, object storage, and the support for that. But we're also announcing in V10 a universal storage integration API. So now, as you probably know, we partner and have integrations with many big storage providers, right? HPE, Cisco, NetApp, Dell EMC. And it's with these integrations that we're able to deliver industry-leading RPOs and RTOs around those storage vendors. But in V10, we're rolling out a new universal storage API that will enable select vendors to add additional integrations. And as you can see here on this side, IBM, Lenovo, and Infinidat are coming in V10. So Michael, I mentioned we were coming back to you. With these storage integrations, right, if I'm evaluating one or I already have these in place, I'm hearing that I can see up to 50 times faster backups, I get better RTOs, better RPOs, very compelling. Can you show us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, exactly. Just to go back so again, wizard driven, really simple, and you can see down the bottom now we have the IBM Spectrum as well as the Lenovo and the Infinidat box, but just that iteration with the storage APIs to be able to deliver more, faster, further with the storage integrations that we have. But again, keeping to that simple, that wizard-driven approach that we have the ability to just add them in that fashion. But just one thing to show you on the adding the storage. So Infinidat, for example, is a unified architecture, so it offers both NAS and SAN. So we want to be able to choose what Veeam uses from that, so whether it's going to use that block or use that file. So we can choose that protocol in a simple wizard here, but also we want to be able to choose those volumes to scan, so the volumes that only have virtual machines residing on them, as well as using those proxies. For example, fiber channel presentation from the storage, ideally we want a backup proxy with fiber channel to make that backup from storage snapshot. So as simple as that when you go through that first initial setup to your storage. The other thing to mention, so Veeam Explorers, if you've been using these storage arrays, any of our storage arrays prior to being a Veeam customer, then you've got the ability to use our Veeam Explorers for storage snapshots. So being able to go into those natively created snapshots, but still be able to perform a level of recovery against those snapshots. So, for example, I have a snap here that's been created on that Infinidat box. If I right-click on that, we recognize that there's a virtual machine within there, and we've got the ability to use our instant VM recovery, guest files, as well as application item level recovery. And that's the same on all of our storage integrations. If we jump over to the backup job, I'll just run through the options that we have. So backup from storage snapshot, obviously we want to be able to take that backup from that storage efficient snapshot and push on to our backup repository. But also being able to orchestrate a snapshot only, an application consistent snapshot only to the storage for a much tighter RPO is key as well. So with the IBM, the Lenovo and Infinidat, we've got the ability to now set those 15-minute, those hourly snapshots locally on that Infinidat for a really fast recovery point objective. And then probably my favorite feature of Veeam for the last 2 years is our on-demand sandbox for storage snapshots. So the ability to take those application consistent snapshots, pull them into our application group, and then be able to present them to our test, our dev, our troubleshooting, our support teams, and then be able to leverage that data to spin up and use and test against production, performant, and really storage efficient snapshots. And then once we're finished, we're going to automate the clear up of that. So just to run through how that looks. So under backup infrastructure, and this is available in any of our storage integrations. So if anyone's not using that, then it's something to do when you get home, right? So all it is as simple as is create an application group, choose your virtual machines that you'd like. Clint, don't curse this. So under virtual machines, when you select the virtual machines, we can do it from backups, which is our Sure Backup, Sure Replica, but also from storage snapshots. So it's a case of choosing that, and then when you run through a Sure Backup job over in Home, here's one I made earlier, and then there's a tick box in here that we need to be cautious of to keep that application group running so that your test and dev team can get in. Tick that, and then you'll be able to leverage that data.
Terrific. Love Sure Backup, one of my favorite features as well. Thank you for demoing these integrations with our storage vendors. Okay, so we've demonstrated several ways that you can drive business continuity and agility, and V10 is a 10 out of 10 for availability. But no availability solution is complete without disaster recovery orchestration. We hear this from analysts and customers all the time, and that's why we're really excited to announce or to tell you more about our Veeam Availability Orchestrator. While many enterprises have DR plans, the testing, the executing, the documenting of those plans is complex and cumbersome. And this leads to untested, outdated DR plans that businesses have in place today. So, with our Veeam Availability Orchestrator, we solve these issues by helping enterprises have their DR orchestration engine for Veeam Availability Suite. And today we're happy to announce that the latest beta has been released and is available for the release coming later. Veeam Availability Orchestrator. Okay, so we've talked about business continuity, we've talked about business agility, but now we want to talk about that analytics and visibility that we're driving through the Veeam Availability platform and our wider ecosystem of partners who are leveraging our backups to provide robust data analytics and analysis, discovery, simplified data management, workflow automation, and much, much more. So we're going to walk through a few of these, and the first one we want to talk about is the integration or the partnering we've done with VMware vRealize Log Insight. And Michael, I know you've been looking at this very closely. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this partnership?
So Log Insight is a very popular VMware product that does log aggregation, collation, and then they have this great sort of construct of content packs which vendors can produce that puts a face onto that incredibly detailed logs. Yeah. And so Veeam has one, which will be public soon. And yes, we can actually see here, I heard you say, sure, backup jobs are pretty cool, yes. And I love them too. So we can actually see here that the Veeam content pack is actually looking at the data, looking at all those logs from everywhere, and showing us the successful and the not successful sure backup jobs. And what that means is we can actually click on these and get more information and go into what's called interactive analytics, and now we see all the raw data that relates to those widgets that we just saw, and it makes troubleshooting much easier, and it also allows the customer that's already using this tool to monitor their infrastructure. Now they can monitor Veeam as well.
And that's the real power, right? They're using this tool to monitor their infrastructure, and now in the same location, they're able to see Veeam.
Exactly.
Terrific. So one of our ecosystem partners with VMware vRealize Log Insights, another partner that we wanted to talk a little bit about is Data Gravity. Right, so Data Gravity is leveraging Veeam backups in some very compelling and powerful ways. Right, so they're using it to deliver that federated search, as well as to drive analytics and insights from the data. Things like identifying personally identifiable information that an organization might want to protect, or using it to provide insights into the data, or finding things that might be suggesting that there's patterns of behavior that might suggest malware, or again, ransomware. Helping companies to be compliant and to drive against their data governance needs. So we're really excited about this Data Gravity for Availability solution that's coming. Another solution that we wanted to tell you a little bit more about is StarWind. And Rick, I know you've been looking at this one in terms of the virtual tape library for AWS and Veeam with StarWind.
Yes, and here's a console here that has a tenant backup job to tape, which was one of the list of features that came in yesterday. And here's the StarWind Management Console. And this is a great technology, John, because this is a VTL technology that really allows organizations to do their same logic of retention on tape, but it's backed on disk and on the cloud, in the cloud with Amazon Object Storage, both S3 and Glacier. So very easy way to manage these tapes, and the real important point is on disk, you get that really good experience for read and write, and random reads, random writes, so that your tape experience is actually pretty good, and then you can back it up to the object storage resources in the cloud. So good stuff here as well.
Yeah, terrific. So Amazon S3 and Glacier.
Yep.
And backup virtual tape library to the cloud. Okay, so there's 3 of our ecosystem partners. There's one more that we wanted to share with you, and this is one that you heard Peter Peter talk a little bit more about earlier on. We're partnering with In2WS through an investment to bring a solution that we're calling Veeam Availability for AWS. And this is important because as more customers are putting more and more workloads into Amazon Web Services, it's becoming critical that they are protecting those workloads, giving that same protection that they would provide to their virtualized workloads on-premises or in managed clouds. It's their data, they need to protect it. So by partnering with In2WS, we're delivering that first agentless availability solution for AWS workloads through this solution. So Rick, again, let's go back to you. Maybe you can give us a quick demo of what this looks like?
Yes, and many organizations who have workloads in AWS, they start here. This is your AWS console of your EC2 workloads. I have a slew of virtual machines in here, but the N2W software, and this is the existing GA bit. We have a breakout session at 2:50 today. Myself and Uri from N2W are going to show this, but real quickly, I'll just show you that basically we're able to connect to the Amazon instance, identify the EC2 workloads that we want to back up. 2 of them I'm not backing up. I could add them in there. And I'm going to leave you hooked and on the waiting for more, because at 2:50, Uri and I are going to give you a preview of the exclusive Veeam integration to put those backups into a Veeam repository.
So a quick sneak peek, but it looked easy.
Yep.
Protecting your data, even that data that's in AWS. All right, so hopefully we've shared a lot with you. Hopefully you experienced availability, at least availability that's coming in version 10. As Rick mentioned, there are several breakouts that are happening this afternoon that we encourage you to go and look. First, there is a V10 breakout, so we definitely encourage you to go to that breakout to learn more about what's coming. We encourage you to attend the Data Gravity breakout to learn more about their solution, the StarWind breakout in terms of VTL for AWS and Veeam, and of course, the breakout for Veeam Availability for AWS, that last demo that Rick walked us through. So we've shared with you all the different ways that we in V10 are delivering business continuity, we're delivering that nonstop digital transformation agility, and we're delivering that analytics and visibility. We encourage you, in addition to going to the breakouts, for you to go out, talk to the Veeam experts in the Genius Bar, go to the expo, see demos, get data sheets, make sure to attend all those breakouts and learn more about Veeam Availability Suite version 10, the Veeam Always On Cloud platform, and learn how we are helping you to enable your digital life. So with that, we thank you. Enjoy the rest of VeeamON.